Well, hi, my friends. This is Jay, and this is Jay's Knit and Purl Jam. And no, this is not the end of the sweater. Thank you so much for all my family and friends that are enjoying our journey on knitting a simple stitch to make simple sweaters. And so continue to work, and I will have part 4 for you just as soon as I can. But in the meantime, I wanted to come on to share with you something that I have decided to add to Jay's Knit and Purl Jam. So let me just give you this. I get a lot of people that follow me. They say, Jay, I love the sweaters, I love the projects, I love different things. But, I've got some physical, problems, or I just, don't have the mind or time to knit a full sweater. And so I thought, well, you know what? That's true. So I thought, well, what can I do? And you know what I say? When you don't know what to do, do what you know. I went back. How did I start knitting sweaters? How did I increase my knitting knowledge, my knitting skills? Well, I started with dishcloths back in the day, back when they were real popular. They were just the prettiest little things. Oh, they were all, they just looked so cute. Just little pieces of knitted fabric with a pretty stitch. And then one day, all of a sudden, ding, ding, I noticed that if I put 2 dishcloths together, big enough to fit me, and sew up, some seams, I could have a sweater. And hence, I have not looked back since. I just started knitting sweaters. But I thought, why don't I do that with my friends here that follow me here on YouTube? Let me take you through some stitches. Let's go back to where you need to start some stitches. Now this is for, you're a new knitter, but you know the basic of knitting. Or returning knitters. A lot of you have that got older or retired or you had some health issues, but you want to return back to the needles. You want to knit, but just not such a large project. Well, I thought about, I don't want to knit dishcloths. I'm just not a dishcloth knitter anymore. But I do like to knit stitches and then turn them into a project. And of course you're going to say, well, Jay, there's a lot of people knitting stitches and swatches on the YouTube. Yes, there are. But I'm telling you, the stitches they have now will just absolutely just blow you away. And how they have just, the creativity has just, it's just overwhelming. But, there's always people who want to start at the beginning. And that's where I'm going to kind of start with you. Not so simple that, no. I want to present to you Jay's Knit Stitches A La Carte. That's what I said. Now, quick background story. February 14th, Valentine's Day, I asked my husband out on a date. I took him to lunch. He takes me, but I says, come on, we'll take you to lunch, and we'll just go sit down at a nice restaurant. And that's what we did. And now, when we go to the restaurants, I'm not a picky eater. But when I go to a restaurant, I have to be, because I can't control the sodium and salt and, the sugar or other things that they may have in the food, okay? So in a restaurant, I have to be a little picky. Instead of taking the menu as presented, where the meal is already put together for you, I have to kind of, well, I'll take that meat, I'll have that veggie, I'll have that sauce, I can only have this here, that. So I have to pick randomly off the menu, which is, a la carte. You're just picking off the menu. So when I got home, I thought about it, and I says, well, why don't I have so many stitch books? And as you saw in the intro, I presented just pictures. Books I'll never get to just those stitches. I'm not talking about the stitches they have now on the YouTube. Oh my gosh, the stitches that are there. I'm just talking about in my stitch books. People probably won't live that long. So I thought what I could do is randomly pick nice stitches that I can present one at a time, not a whole big project, just one one video, one stitch, one video, another stitch, another video, one at a time, and just walk you through it. And so that you can build your skills, and then you can decide if you want to go into larger projects. So what do you think of this? I want to present to my YouTube family and friends Jay's Stitch A La Carte. Stitches I'm going to just pick from. These are, like I said, all stitches from stitch books or in the public domain, but maybe you've never used them. Now, we can't stay at the beginner level. Eventually we will move up to medium and eventually move up to more advanced stitches. As your skills grow, my skills will grow too, because I'll have to stay ahead. So, I want to present you this first, we'll just call it number 1, stitch number 1. We won't call it episodes. Now, this won't be numbered with my regular. I'm going to keep this, it's going to be numbered a little different so I can keep my regular videos and have the same episode number. We're just going to call this probably, like stitch tutorial number 1. Keep it simple or whatever. But I just wanted to come on and tell you about my idea and let you give it a chance. Give it a try first, and then you decide. So, now what I'm going to do, and let me say this. All right, now this is the first. So I'm doing this little intro to tell you about, the idea and what I'm presenting. But now you won't get an intro on all the other, later on, the little videos. They will simply have an intro of pictures and, of course, music. And then you will get an information sheet, which is going to be what you will see right after I'm through talking to you. Then you will get an information sheet so that you can have something in writing. And I'm going to give you my little formula. And sometimes I will even give you bonus formulas for working a project. Maybe something will come to me and I'll go, you know what, this will make a cute scarf, or this will make a cute whatever. And I'll go ahead and work out a working formula. Those that, watch me and work with me, that's what I work from. And then I will, of course, we will have the stitch. So that will be included. And then we will go right into stitching. So let's get started on our first stitch. And guess what? It's not even one of these. It's a surprise. Welcome to Jay's Knit Stitches A La Carte. Just for my friends on the YouTube. Alright, let's talk about supplies. Oh, you're gonna love this. Supplies are just simply leftovers. Simply leftovers like that good meatloaf you had. Or that good chicken casserole. Alright, in the yarns, I suggest, if you like small weight yarn, say a number 3, a baby, that's like baby yarn or sports yarn. I suggest using a number 7 needle to work the stitch. Number 7 needles to work the stitch. It will give good stitch definition. I wouldn't use really large needles on that yarn. I'm going to use my regular number 4, and my yarn of choice is Caron Simply Soft, because I've always used it to make swatches or whatever. And look, this is all I had left, apparently from a sweater or something. So you see, it's a good way to use up your leftovers, because I couldn't really do a whole lot with just that. And it's a good way to still keep stash busting. So look how easy the supplies. Leftover yarn, size needles, 7 for smaller weight, number 3, and number 8 needles for number 4 for 4 weight yarn. You will need some stitch markers, of course, and of course your caps for your points of your needles in case you have to leave it and come back. And let's see, before I can't think of anything else, so the next thing, I'm going to pull this out. We're going to cast on. I'm going to go over, you had a chance to see the information sheet. We're going to work from our sheet, from our formula, cast on, and start working the actual stitch. Just really easy, simple, and it's going to be quick too. So hold on, be right back. Alright, so now there's nothing else to do but let me show you our first stitch of Jay's Knit Stitches a la carte. Now, like I said, I just pick stitches randomly from my stitch books. So in each stitch book, you know, these are basic stitches, but they use different names, so I'm just going to call them by number. That way, if you have problems or need me to help you on a stitch, you can say, I'm working stitch number 1. So this is stitch number 1, and if you're a seasoned knitter, you can kind of recognize it a little bit. It's part of one of the fan and feather. It's part of that family. It's not the regular fan and feather. This one is a little different. But it's oh so simple, and it works up really nice. Now I've used, of course, the Caron Simply Soft, and you can see a little bit why I like it. It just has great stitch definition, and it has that little sheen. But now, like I said, you can use we've already gone over the yarns. I use, like I said, a number 8, and that's what I would be doing all the stitches in for me, because that's the needle of my choice. All right, so well, let me turn it over on the back. Nice and smooth on the back. And this, like I said, this is nothing but skill building practice, so that as we go from one stitch to another stitch to another and we continue, you will just improve. For those that are looking to improve your skill level or improve your tension or just improve working stitches. And of course, I'm going to work every row for you. Now I picked out something. Now let me get my little sheet that you saw. Maybe I better take it out of the plastic. All right, this is my information sheet that you saw a little earlier, and I break it down. And like I said, this is going to be stitch tutorial number 1. This stitch is a multiple of 11 stitches. So every repeat that you want to do, you just have 11 stitches. They didn't even have a plus on here. Then I broke that down into my working formula, because you know that's how I just like the idea of working from one line and not trying to flip pages and here and there. And the formula is simply, everything will have a border of 3. That's what the B stands for. Border of 3 plus, I took 3 times 11, 33 stitches for the pattern stitch. See, just real easy. And then a border on this side, and if you add all those up, you'd have a cast on number for this swatch number 1, of 39 stitches. And then guess what? That's not even the best part. There's only one pattern. There's 4 rows, but only one pattern row. One pattern row, Jay. Look at this stitch. How can you get all of this luscious goodness from one row? And that's why I picked it for this beginner project, so that those that are new, but yet those who are coming back to knitting, or those who, just like me, are seasoned and we just like to work the stitches, you're going to be able to, people will look at this and they'll go, you didn't knit that, and you'll go, yes I did. Look at all that. It just looks like it's a whole lot of, oh, she must just know how to, no, one row, people. So that's why I'm excited, and that's why I picked the stitch. So there is our first. This is stitch tutorial number 1. This is our stitch, 4 rows, and you've already seen the sheet. So the next thing I will do, we will start working row 1. That's how quick it's going to be. And of course, the rest of them will be even quicker, because I won't have the intro and a lot of information. This is strictly about knitting row by row. That's all I want to do. All right, back in just a minute. As we get started, we are on row 1. Row 1 is the right side of the fabric of our swatch. And row 1 is simply knit across the row. So we're going to knit, but we're also going to go ahead and place stitch markers. You're going to need 2 stitch markers to place, oops, get my needle out. Here we go. To place at the beginning and the end. The B represents border, remember? So I knit the first 3 stitches of row 1. So it's 1, 2, and 3. And I place a marker. That just separates the border. Now I knit across all the stitches for row 1. Nice and easy. Somewhere along the way, I will take out my dishcloth drawer to show you what dishcloths I have left that maybe I haven't given away or gotten rid of, or I don't know, over the years. But you know how you keep some that I want to keep that one, or I like that stitch. So I do have quite a few that I kept. So I'll pull it out and we'll just go through some. But like I said, I'm not really thinking about dishcloths in this series of tutorials. I am thinking more of the stitch so that you can understand how easy, if you just take one stitch at a time and then we turn it into a project or design, or show you how to use that stitch. All right, I'm coming up. This is row 1. I'm coming up to the last 3 stitches, which represents the border. One more. Okay, I see the last 3 stitches. I'm going to place the second marker, something that will stand out so that easy to see. All right. Now, look how quick and how fast it goes. Of course, when I turn the work, this is row 2 and this is the wrong side. We will simply knit the borders, but we will purl all the pattern stitches. I'll just knit a few stitches here. We knit the borders on every row, everywhere. All right, now to purl these stitches, of course, I bring the yarn in front, slide the marker, and I start to purl across the row. This is row number 2, and it is the wrong side, and we will mark the wrong side shortly. You will be able to tell if you're a seasoned knitter, but it's just good. I always like to mark it. All right, so continue to knit across all the way to this end, and then you'll knit the last 3 stitches. Then once you turn the work, guess what? We're on row 3, and we're going to work the pattern just like that. I told you this was going to be good leftovers. Back in just a minute. We are on row 3. It's the right side, and it's the only pattern row for stitch number 1. Now you've heard of words that are, tongue twisters. Well, this stitch, because we're going to be working more purl stitches, is more like a stitch twister. So you do have to pay attention, especially for, new knitters. All right, but I'm going to walk you through, and it will be on the bottom of the screen. So let's read row 3, and then I'll show you how it looks. It says purl 2 stitches together 2 times. It's in parentheses, so then the next little sequence is yarn over, knit 1, do it 3 times. Then there's a yarn over, which is going to be important not to forget that, yarn over. Then you'll end this repeat with purl 2 stitches together 2 times. So let's go. That should equal 11 stitches. You should come out with 11 stitches. So the first thing I want to do is, of course, knit my 3-stitch border. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Now, I like to look ahead and see what my next stitch is, and it's a purl. Purl 2 stitches together. So I bring the yarn in front in the purl position. Behind the needle is the knit position, and in front is the purl position. Now, continental, I do not know about continental knitting, and it's different, but if you're a seasoned knitter, you knit whichever you prefer. All right, my yarn is in front, so now I can slide the marker because I'm in the purl position. It says purl 2 stitches together, so I'm just simply going to go in that direction. I'm purling, yarn over. That's 2 stitches purled together. Now it says you have to do that twice, so I need to do it one more time. See? Stick it back in. Purl those 2 stitches. Now the next sequence is yarn over, knit 1, and we do it 3 times. Now, this you have to know for beginners. When you're in the purl position, you are automatically in the yarn over position. You see how the yarn goes over the needle? That's all that means. Yarn over the needle. So, in order to work that, I go ahead and stick this needle into that next stitch. I'm in the yarn over position. Yarn over. Now I knit that stitch. That is one sequence of this stitch. Now, yarn over, knit the next stitch. One more because we have to do it 3 times. Yarn over, knit the next stitch. I have worked that sequence. Now, remember this. Look on the screen right up under. There is a yarn over. Now watch. Once I do the yarn over and I look to see what the next stitch is, it's a purl stitch. But I have to keep this yarn over, so I have to go around the needle one more time to get me back so that I can purl these 2 stitches together. Learning. Experience learning. So I'm now in the purl position with a yarn over. There's the yarn over, and now I'm in the purl position, so I purl the next 2 stitches. Just like this. 1, 2. Now for each repeat, you should have 11 stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 1 makes 11. So if you think you forgot the yarn over, you can just count your stitches. Now, guess what? We are to repeat this sequence across. So, I'm already in the purl position. Sorry, I got strangled. It says purl 2 stitches together. So now we just go again. This time we can move a little bit. That's 1, then the second one. You got to do it twice. The next sequence is yarn over. I'm in that position already. So I stick my needle into the next stitch and yarn over and knit 1. I have to do it 3 times. That was 1, so yarn over and knit 1. That's 2. Yarn over and knit 1. That makes 3. And the most important thing is there's a yarn over right here. Yarn over. But I have to go back, come back around to get into the purl position. I hope my thumb's not in the way. Let me do it. Yarn over and then around. I have to hold it with my thumb. Then around to get in the purl position. So now I need to purl 2 stitches together. Oops. Take your time so that you don't purl 2 stitches together. Well, you see it does split, but I'm going to keep going. And then purl the next 2 stitches together. Alright, now if you're really new and you feel like you could put stitch markers in between each 11 stitches. seasoned knitters, sometimes that just slows us down. I'm trying to go slow because I know there's people trying to watch and see and says, oh, okay, Jay, now don't go too fast. I'm sorry, I just got strangled. All right. You get lost, you did the last 2 purls. So you go back up to the front of the row again, and it says purl 2 stitches together. I'm at the front of the row again. That's 1. These are tight. 2. Now it says yarn over, knit 1. I'm already in the first yarn over position right there. So I just stick my needle in. That's 1. We got to do it 3 times. That's 1. Now yarn over, knit 1. That's 2. Yarn over, knit 1. That's 3. And then before I can do anything else, I have a yarn over. I have another yarn over. See it on the screen? Yarn over there. And then I have to come around so that I'm in the front of the work again. Now I'll continue. You will have 4 stitches left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you purl 2 stitches together, the last 2. One, 2. Now, if you're not a seasoned knitter, I would not try yarning back because now I see the marker. We're done with the pattern, but I have to knit the border on every row. So I put the yarn in back and I knit 3 stitches. I would not try these on metal needles where it's really slick and it's hard to keep the stitches on, and trying to take that needle to go under and get those purl stitches, you're going to wear yourself out. You're going to be thinking, oh gee, I don't know if I can do this. As soon as we turn the row, look, we're on the wrong side. We are on row 4. Jay, is that it? That's it. Now we're going to go a little further. But before that, just for my own, like I said, you will know the front from the right side, but just out of practice and out of habit, I'm going to mark the wrong side of this swatch. Just like this. This is the wrong side. So I'm just going to take this little crochet hook and just put a little piece of contrasting yarn, like you do a little piece of fringe. Now if that's a little too long, just snip some of it off. It doesn't have to be long. I just need to see it right off the bat. See that? Now guess what? Row 4, you're going to purl the pattern stitches, but first I do my knit 3 stitch border, 1, 2, 3, then I put the yarn in front, slide the marker, and I'm going to purl all the way across to the opposite border, just like this. Now this is a row you're taking off the yarn overs. See, so this row you want to be very careful. Don't like, oh man, and then you start whipping off those yarn overs and lose them. See, there's one, so make sure you take your time. It will give you that elongated, see how it looks long? You want to make sure, at least we don't have double yarn overs like on some of our designs. At least Jay didn't give you double yarn overs. It's just plain single yarn overs. And you will just take your time, go across. I've gone this far, I may as well. Let's see, can I speed it up a little bit? Okay, but not to lose my yarn overs. I'm just purling, and already, what's wrong with my voice tonight? Already the stitches are getting loose. Once you start working the stitch, that first row is a little tight, but after that, it starts to loosen up, and you are able to move even on these bamboo needles. But it is hard to pick up the yarn, the purl stitches, for me, if I use metal needles. And then plus I don't have to worry about dropping the yarn overs, accidentally letting them fall off. Alright, so here I come up to the marker. I have just purled across. This is row 4, the wrong side of this simple stitch tutorial number 1. When I get to the marker, of course, yarn goes in the back, and I knit those 3 stitches. Now let me see if I made a mess of this. Alright. Besides getting strangled. Alright, so now when I turn, you should start to see right off the bat, oh my, Jay, I see a pattern starting. Look at that for beginners. Now, guess what? We are on row 1 again, and you knit across the stitches. Row 2, you have to purl back so that we can get back to row 3. I will see you at row 3 one more time, and I will make sure I'm not strangled. But there's the original, and here's the one I'm working. See it? All right. Knit across, purl these stitches back except for the borders, and I will see you at row 3 again. Take care. We are at row 3. The right side, row 3, our second time we're going to work the pattern row. I'm going to work it with you one more time. But before we do that, always stop and take a look at your stitches so you can familiarize yourself with where stitches fall and how it looks. You can see, of course, the purl stitches because there's purl bumps. And then you can see the knit yarn over knit 1. You can tell that because you can see the little yarn overs, the holes. See that? So you kind of get an idea where things fall and how it looks. But until you knit a few rows like that, and once you do, it's just going to pop out. So again, we are at the pattern row, row 3, and it reads, purl 2 stitches together 2 times. Yarn over, knit 1, and do it 3 times. Then yarn over, then you purl 2 stitches together 2 times. Now this time, and I'm not strangled, so alright, it says purl 2 stitches together 2 times, so I need to bring my yarn in front before I even slide the marker. Then I slide my marker. Now I'm going to stick my needle in, purl 2 together. 1, and I have to do it again. Purl 2 stitches together. There's 2. Alright, yarn over. I'm in the yarn over position, knit 1. So I'm going to stick my needle in the next stitch. I'm in the yarn over, so I go around and knit 1. I have to do this 3 times. That's 1. Yarn over, knit 1. That's 2. Yarn over, knit the next stitch. That's 3. Alright, and then there is a yarn over right there. But the next stitch, it says purl 2 stitches together. So I have to come around again in order to get into the purl position. Does that make sense? So I put my needle, purl 2 stitches together. 1. And again, there it is, the 2 stitches. 2. Alright. Then I go back up to the front of the row. I go to the front of the row again, and it says purl 2 stitches together. So I'm already in the purl side, so I continue purling 2 stitches again. 1, and this will throw you off, so take your time to go back up to the front of the row. 2. So what happens, you wind up doing 4, you'll have 4 stitches with the purls together. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how you can tell if you're in the right place. It just takes getting used to looking at your stitches. Alright, now the next thing is, I'm in the yarn over. So yarn over, knit 1. That's 1. Yarn over, knit the next stitch. That's 2. Yarn over, knit the next stitch, that's 3. Then yarn over, purl 2 stitches together. Remember, yarn over, then I have to come around to purl those 2 stitches together. The purl stitch is in front of the needle, so that's 1, 2. Now I go back up to the front of the row. Alright, it says purl 2 stitches together. Take a breath when you start the beginning of the row and know where you are. So that's 1. Purl the next 2 stitches together. Oh, they just started a downpour of rain. Alright, now it says yarn over right there, and I stick my needle in, yarn over, knit 1. I have to do it 3 times, and that's 1. Yarn over, knit the next stitch, that's 2. Yarn over and knit the next stitch, that's 3. But I need another yarn over in between, and then I come around to the purl side. You should have 4 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4. See them? Alright, I purl those 2 stitches together right there. 1. Sometimes if you just kind of pull down on them, 2. You can get your needle under there. Let's try it again. I'm going to pull down on those stitches, put my needle in, purl those 2, and then of course I have to put the yarn in the back, slide my marker, and knit the last 3 stitches. Woohoo! Alright. Now let's lay it down before we turn to the wrong side, and you can see more of your pattern coming out with just one really simple but take your time pattern row. Row number 3. Does that make sense? What do you think? How does it look? Okay, of course, when I turn the work, that is row 4, and you will simply work row 4, then you back at row 1, row 2, and then row 3 again. Now, how easy and simple is that? I told you the leftovers were going to be good. And this simple stitch would look so pretty that even you're going to impress yourself. Oh my gosh. Just take your time on row 3, and you're going to work it to however many inches or length you want it. Now, let's talk just a minute, because that's it. Let me go back to the original just to show you. So here is the original one. Here is the one we're working in real time. And you can make them as long as you want. I didn't even know how many times I did it, but I have about 9 inches total. Now watch. I did my pattern design until I got tired. Until I decided, well, let's see how long I did the pattern. Well, I could count. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I did about 10 repeats, but you can do however many you want. Then on row, after I do row 1, and then I do row 2, and then I just continue to work back and forth. Knit on the front, purl on the back. Row 1, row 2, row 1, row 2, which is your stockinette. But you do make sure you keep the borders, the 3 stitches on each side. So you work your lace as many repeats as you like, as many times. Then when you get to row 1, you work it, row 2, and then you just continue working row 1 and row 2 to give you the stockinette. Now, to end, if you just want to end the swatch, then you'd want to end where you are on. You will do row 1, row 2 a purl side, and then you will bind off on a purl side. You will simply just bind off. But if you prefer to have maybe say, well, Jay, I kind of want to go on. I want to see, I might make this into a scarf. Well, you can continue in the stockinette, knit on the front, purl on the back, all the way or to the length or as long as you like. This is a directional stitch, so you can't get this edge on the other side unless you actually start the other side and then bring the two to meet. So it's all right to have a plain edge. Remember my other scarves where I may have a design going up so far, and then the rest of it I work in a simple stitch. And so you have two nice textured stitches. One nice and smooth, the stockinette, or your design. Does that make sense? So, what do you think? Just simple. Like I say, you work it up as far as you want, and when you knit across, and then when you purl back, you can just go ahead and bind off in a purl stitch, or you can work more stitches in garter stitch. Just a couple of rows. It's just up to you. Well, I wanted to bring this so that I can really encourage you to step out and just give simple stitches a try. And what better way than to do it and just do it one stitch at a time. So this is the first stitch tutorial, number 1 in this series of Jay's Knit Stitches A La Carte. And just to remind you, just as now I can take this one and roll it up, and look at that. Now, doesn't that look good enough to eat? Oh, thank you for watching, and I hope you give it a try. Please leave comments down at the bottom. Tell me if you like doing it, if this is something that will encourage you to step out and give it a try. Just knitting, stitch by stitch. How about that? Until next time, until we do our stitch tutorial, stitch number 2, which will be one of these, but I'm not going to tell you which one. It's going to be a surprise. So I'm already ahead, so that gives me a little break. So now, back to my sweater, simple stitches for a simple sweater. All right, this is Jay, and this is Jay's Knit and Purl Jam. See you later. Bye.